Although my heart still aches from the end of season 5, I am exceptionally happy to be rewatching season 6 of Cheers because I love Kirstie Alley. I've loved her since I was 5 years old. So, granted, I'm very biased with my love of Rebecca, but I am certainly over the moon, still aching for Diane. But let's look on the bright side. Now we get Rebecca and a whole new set of adventures. Home is the Sailor is the first episode of the sixth season of Cheers, directed, of course, by the wonderful James Burrows, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. There's a lot of ground to cover here. I have a lot of things to say. Absolutely will be spoilers for this episode, and it's an absolutely solid start. Frasier comes in, and things are very different. There is Woody behind the bar and another bartender. They're wearing matching uniforms. There are tablecloths on the bar. Woody's name tag says Wayne. We later find out this is because he lost his own name tag. And things are different. And then Frasier, in a nice bit of dialogue with Woody, sums up everything that's happened. And he says, and I quote, "Whatever happened to the good old days? Everything was better. Sam still owned the bar. He wasn't out circumnavigating the globe. Yonder sat Diane with a book. Norm and Cliff were permanent fixtures in this place. How I miss those hail fellows well met." And he sobs. And also, I love the fact that Diane is still getting a mention, a couple of times actually, even though she's not around. But what has happened to Cheers? Well, we'd slowly piece things together. And if you did watch that intro and had a mini panic, I genuinely don't remember what I felt when I watched this episode the first time, but I think I would have had IMDb up to begin with. So I don't think I would have been led to believe that Norman, Cliff, etc. were no longer around. But if you do believe that, or if that is what you initially think, and Sam's gone and most of the original cast are gone, the names are still in the intro, and of course Rebecca's is there now. And Norm then comes in, and nobody except Woody gives him a Norm. And Norm remarks, "The new crowd's a bunch of stiffs." Eddie LeBec then comes in, and Woody explains that Sam sold the bar to some big corporation and bought a boat. This is obviously him trying to deal with the absence of Diane, and we find out that Diane didn't really succeed with writing her book, and she then decided to go to Hollywood to try and write for television. The audience's laugh at that point is a little bit uncomfortable because Shelley Long was trying to establish a career more so in film, and obviously this is a different venture for her, so I feel like that was maybe a teeny tiny dig at her, but nevertheless, it's nice to know what Diane is doing. Carla is pregnant again, and then Sam comes back in, and he walks in, looks around, and he walks up to the bar where Frasier and Carla are, and Woody's behind the bar, and he sits down, and Frasier's reaction when he sees Sam is just one of the most beautiful things ever. I absolutely loved it. So funny, so heartfelt from Frasier, just absolutely sensational. We also learn that Sam's boat sank, so he's come back, and Carla thinks, brilliant, Sam can get the bar back. He can be at Cheers again. We get introduced to the other bartender, the actual Wayne, and he's played by Jonathan Stark, and we find out a little bit about the new manager. Carla says, and I quote, "This new manager eats live sharks for breakfast." We also learn that she's unmarried, and that she is a she, and of course, Sam sees a potential new challenge, if you like, and Sam opens the door to Cheers, and there stands Kirstie Alley, and I don't know, well, I do know why, but she looks sensational. But the red coat that she's wearing is just so fabulous. Whenever I see that, I know exactly that we're starting a new adventure. And the costumes for Rebecca are stunning. And I always feel like Rebecca and Diane definitely had the best costumes. Carla has the best earrings. I think she's got watermelons in this episode. But Diane and Rebecca always have the most beautiful costumes, and this episode definitely helps to highlight that. I love the red jacket, so iconic. Carla is then ordered not necessarily nastily, but it's very clear that Rebecca is in charge, and she tells Carla to go and tend to her customers, and off Carla walks doing a Nazi salute, and we have Sam kind of trying to sweet talk Rebecca and asks to work at Cheers, and Rebecca says, sorry, we're fully staffed. She goes into her office, Sam walks in after her, and it's different. I think that's to be expected, but everything looks different. It even looks bigger. I don't know if that is the case. I don't know if they've extended it, but it does look bigger. It could just be the decor. It's very much Rebecca's office now, though. And Sam talks about things that have happened to him. He talks about her, referring to Diane, and is not necessarily begging for a job, but it definitely is getting that way. And finally, Rebecca says that he can be a relief bartender a couple of nights a week. And she does this out of pity because, as she says, he lost the bar, he lost his girlfriend, he's no longer an athlete. And to quote, I just hope working here can help fill a little of the emptiness, which is brutal. And Carla then starts to find a scheme to get rid of Wayne, and we do find out what this is. And then the phone rings, and it's Mr. Drake. And we have a brief moment of weakness from Rebecca, where she lets her guard down, because she goes to go back into the office to take the phone call, and in the matter of about 3 seconds, she says, I locked myself out. No, I didn't. She manages to get back into the office. But it was just absolutely adorable to see that moment of weakness. And we learn from Carla that Mr. Drake, this is Evan Drake. I don't know if they mentioned his first name in the episode, but this is Evan Drake, vice president of the corporation that Sam sold the bar to. And clearly Rebecca is very smitten with him. She managed to take her jacket off and answer the phone at the same time. And she must be feeling a little bit warm and flustered. She says, no, it's no problem. I love you. I mean, I'd love to. And Sam is actually listening in from the bar. And she mentions that she hired somebody called Sam. And she mentions that it's Sam of the Red Sox. And then we don't hear the conversation from Evan Drake. But basically, he insists that Sam is hired full-time, that it would be a really great thing for the bar. And obviously Rebecca doesn't want to go back to Sam and say, actually, please come and work for me full time. But she realises if she wants to keep Evan Drake happy, that's what she's going to have to do. And she comes out of her office, and Sam looks out of place, which is a horrible, horrible thing to feel, because it's Cheers. It's Sam's baby. But he's sitting back in a chair with his feet up on the table. Well, his legs are on the table, but his feet are up there. And it definitely looks out of place with the way things are in Cheers at the moment. And he calls her Becky and Bex, and she says, come and work full time. But then something happens that I certainly didn't consider. But it turns out that she'd have to let go one of the full-time bartenders, and she doesn't want to let Wayne go because he seems like a good bartender. So it's going to be Woody. And Carla says that a customer will come into the bar tonight and order a drink Wayne has never heard of and prove that he's not a perfect bartender. And as luck would have it, in walks Norm. It's very awkward because nobody gives him a Norm again. And then somebody does give him a Norm a few seconds later, and actually they really shouldn't have done, because Norm was trying to pretend that he was a stranger to the bar, and he walks up to the bar and he asks for a Screaming Viking. And Wayne has never heard of this, and so Carla's plot begins. And he says there's no such thing as a Screaming Viking, and then another customer says, yeah, that sounds good, I'll have a Screaming Viking. And then another customer, and then Cliff comes out from the back room, or maybe the toilets, not sure, and asks for a Screaming Viking. Sam's expression at that point was delightful. I don't know if his expression was the way it was because of how ludicrous the situation was, or because, well, he was seeing Cliff again for the first time in ages. Cliff hasn't changed, and I think it was a lovely moment for Sam either way. And then Al comes in, Wayne storms out, and Al comes in as well. And it's just so delightful to have all of the main cast there, the supporting characters with Al and Eddie LeBec. I don't like Eddie LeBec. Well, it's a grey area. We'll come back to that when it's relevant in a future episode. But it's so nice to have just everybody involved. We didn't get enough of Cliff, for my liking, but what we got was satisfactory. And Rebecca takes Sam into her office and everybody's holding the screaming Vikings in their mouth until she shuts the door and they spit it out all over Cheers. And if that's not a sign that the current state of Cheers is simply worthy of spitting all over, I don't know what is. I'm not saying I dislike the way Cheers looks at the moment, but it's not the Cheers that we know and love. Interestingly, and I guess unexpectedly, Rebecca then hands Sam a severance check. And this is because he showed her up. And here we have, if we hadn't realised it already, Rebecca Howe is not to be messed with. But he kind of grovels a little bit, and she gives him one final chance. And she uses baseball references to explain it to him. And I think we are very clearly seeing here that Rebecca is not a like-for-like replacement for Diane. In fact, in many, many ways, they are not alike at all. There are occasionally times when they're quite alike, but that's more so with Rebecca's character development rather than in the beginning. And Sam actually decides to get his own back a little bit. He says, "Can I see you smile?" And Rebecca twists her hair, and here we see, in my opinion, that Rebecca has this tough exterior, but actually all she wants is to be liked, to be admired, to be complimented, and we see that guard slipping a little bit when Sam does this and seems to compliment her. He says that she looks like she'd light up the room when she smiles, and she really liked this. And maybe she's not used to getting compliments. Who knows? We'll find out in due course just what Rebecca's life is like. And she does smile, and she's gorgeous. And Sam says, "Gee, I was wrong," and leaves. And that is very harsh. But he's just returning the same energy, so I don't blame him. And there we end the episode. I wish I could remember how I felt about this the first time I watched this. I think it would have been a very different experience for me. One, because I had no idea what to expect from Kirstie Alley. I was very excited. And yes, I would have been grieving Diane, but I wasn't as attached to Diane the first time round as I am now. So it's a very, very different experience this time. But I have to say, it's an incredibly solid start to season 6. The only thing that was missing was a mention of Coach, but it wouldn't have made much logical sense for that to happen. But that still would have been nice to include, just to have everybody mentioned, absolutely everybody. But that aside, it is an absolutely perfect episode. I miss Diane tremendously, but I love Kirstie Alley so much that I can't help but be very excited to be rewatching season 6 and beyond. Home is the Sailor is pretty fantastic.